drugs anymore. I don't want to be known as this scum of society anymore. I wanted to be home. I didn't want to be outside. If you're homeless, the ministry isn't going to help you get a home to live in. They say they're going to help us. They say they're putting millions of dollars into getting us a housing and getting us off the streets, but realistically, where's all that money going? You see more homeless people every day.
From 2023 into 2024, the number of unhoused people in Vancouver spiked, surpassing 3,600 souls. Regional data indicates that roughly 40% of these community members are surviving entirely out in the open air. While statistics offer a snapshot, the sidewalks reveal a grittier truth. You see a heavy, bone-deep weariness in every person. Struggles with addiction make the days blur. We are seeing the fallout of massive rent hikes and aid that arrives far too late. The real tragedy in Vancouver is the sharp contrast. Glass-covered luxury towers cast long shadows over the very pavement, where people are just struggling to make it through the night. This situation goes way beyond what most call homelessness. This is the raw reality of our city. Stay with us until the end, because this story matters more than any tourist brochure. If this hits home, leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe to Homeless People Stories, so we can make sure these lives aren't forgotten. First, let's look at the hard facts behind this growing urban crisis. The latest regional study, covering the period from 2024 to 2025, recorded 5,232 residents who are currently living without a permanent place of their own. That is a 9% increase from just 2 years ago and a shocking 141% jump since 2005. Within the city proper, roughly 2,715 people find themselves displaced every single night of the week. Those sleeping rough on concrete, in doorways, or huddled in old vans and tents grew by 30% recently, totaling 1,893 people across the metro area, all without a bed during the survey. Indigenous people are only 2% of locals, but represent 34% of the homeless. Many others deal with lifelong medical issues, intenso trauma, or the crushing weight of a failing economy. To be specific, the cost of housing has completely outpaced local wages for more than 10 years now. A basic one-bedroom flat now runs over $2,800 in most areas. Yet government assistance for individuals only ranges from $900 to $1,200 a month. The math just doesn't add up. When the money runs out or a job is lost, people end up on the street. Welcome to the side of Vancouver nobody sees. Multi-million-dollar penthouses rising up right next to tent encampments. High-priced views look down on back alleys filled with carts and trash bags. These figures aren't just marks on a page. They map out a 20-year disaster driven by a total lack of affordable housing, a shortage of social units, and a safety net that never expanded to handle the actual need. Behind every single statistic is a human being who once had a set of keys, a mailbox, and a future. Now they live outside 24/7. What hits you the hardest? Seeing this kind of pain in a city famous for its wealth, a thin piece of plastic against the freezing ocean air. Moving from the data to the daily struggle here on Homeless People Stories, Vancouver's winters are absolutely brutal. In its typically wet fashion, the city sees about 166 to 170 days of rain every year, pouring 1,200 millimeters of water down mostly from October to March. That constant drizzle, heavy downpours, and freezing sea winds make even the mildest days feel like they are made of ice. For the nearly 1,893 unsheltered people in this city, protection usually means just a basic tarp draped over a fence, a leaking tent, or bags taped to a sleeping bag. At places like Crab Park or East Hastings, these shelters sag under the rain, soaking everything the person owns. The water pounds against the plastic all night long, making it impossible to ever get any real rest. By daybreak, they are wringing out their clothes, but the cold stays in their bones. Skin fails, joints throb, total burnout takes over because a good night's rest is just a memory. People move between awnings or overpasses, searching for a dry patch of ground or staying close to others for the sake of safety. A tarp is more than just plastic. It's the last line of defense. Still, human kindness manages to peek through. Whether it's sharing a light or helping a neighbor tie down their tent before the next storm hits. Sharing these accounts on homeless people stories, I witness amazing strength in this damp environment. It proves that having a dry place to sleep isn't a luxury. It is the absolute bare minimum for survival. How does thinking about those soaking wet nights change the way you look at a Vancouver winter? Examining the substance abuse crisis in Vancouver, we're opening a heavy chapter on homeless people stories. We need to address drug use in the Downtown Eastside with complete honesty. This isn't just a news bite or a sterile figure. It's a raw, public struggle happening every single day. Walking these city streets really puts the massive scale of this tragedy into perspective. This suffering is fueled by fentanyl, a synthetic opioid far stronger than morphine that has flooded every corner of the market. During 2025, coroners identified fentanyl in roughly 70% of deaths linked to contaminated illicit substances. Across the region, it is commonly mixed with methamphetamine, cocaine, or powerful veterinary tranquilizers such as xylazine and medetomidine. In the Downtown Eastside, nearly every substance is laced with fentanyl, making any hit a deadly and chaotic roll of the dice. Pure hopelessness is on full display daily throughout East Hastings and its neighboring streets. People gather on sidewalks and in narrow alleyways, simply fighting to get through the hour without the onset of withdrawal. From a distance, it looks like chaos, but it is actually a battle to stay alive. Most individuals are no longer chasing a high, they are frantically trying to escape the brutal physical ache, the terror, and the crushing mental burden of their daily lives. The true heartbreak lies in the unique life story concealed behind every person living outdoors. Many begin their descent with a routine medical issue and a pill bottle, while others are lost to the system through psychological distress. Perhaps they were evicted or lost their family ties, and that downward spiral eventually dragged them under for good. Each day is a grueling struggle to reach sunset, yet even in the depths of despair, small acts of compassion still shine through. People watch over one another, splitting their meager rations and ensuring their friends make it to the next morning. Witnessing that is incredibly painful, as these are human beings barely clinging to life beneath the shadow of their dependency. Personally, I do not see this as a moral failure, but rather the result of intense agony and a toxic drug market. Instead of judgment, these individuals deserve a secure bed and proper health care. What do you find most startling about the harsh realities of life on the streets of Vancouver? The underlying factors. Exploring these Vancouver narratives for homeless people's stories helps bring the core problems into focus. It is far more complex than simple mistakes. It is a web of stresses that gradually erodes an individual's foundation. Since 2002, the cost of housing in this coastal metropolis has surged by 143%. Meanwhile, wages have only risen by 93%, creating a huge disparity that drives households toward disaster. The affordable single-room occupancy units that once provided a safety net for the low-income population are rapidly vanishing. Only roughly 3,800 budget-friendly private rooms remain in the city with rents below $750. Many are decaying or being repurposed, so even having consistent work no longer ensures you will have a roof over your head. Securing a simple home has turned into an unreachable goal for many, while individual trials only add to the difficulty. Recent statistics indicate that 43% of the local population suffers from long-term medical issues. A further 33% deal with physical impairments that make employment or daily tasks extremely challenging. In neighborhoods like the Downtown Eastside, medical crises and financial instability intersect to create a nearly inescapable cycle. Individuals become trapped in a revolving door of insecurity. It is a gradual, persistent accumulation of bad luck. Between losing an affordable flat and falling ill, the idea of permanent housing eventually starts to feel like a fantasy. These linked factors demonstrate how local economic shifts and personal disasters conspire to keep folks marginalized. This leaves many stuck in a state of constant uncertainty. Analyzing these homeless people's stories reveals a dire need to bolster community resources to help those who are slipping. True compassion involves repairing the societal failures while simultaneously supporting the victims within them. This ensures no one has to suffer alone. Simply staying educated and backing local aid initiatives can make a difference. What are your thoughts on how inflated housing costs and medical struggles create such an enormous strain in Vancouver? Every displacement operation further devastates these already fragile lives. compounding the suffering. The frequent clearing of encampments increases the instability for Vancouver's unsheltered residents. Fresh evidence shows that approximately 13.6% of the homeless population has had their belongings confiscated. The majority of these removals are conducted by municipal staff on a regular quarterly basis. This figure climbs to nearly 25% for those who reside entirely in public spaces. These sweeps are typically concentrated in high-traffic areas such as Oppenheimer Park, East Hastings, and Strathcona Park. Within these zones, rudimentary tents and plastic sheeting represent the only protection people have from the elements. These encampment raids hit incredibly hard, leaving a trail of silent, personal devastation. Essential coats, IDs, meds, and those tiny keepsakes that keep someone's spirit alive simply vanish. Losing everything in seconds isn't just an inconvenience, it's a total, soul-crushing life reset. With their world gone, they're left desperate, hunting for any patch of ground to catch some sleep. Often, they're pushed far from meal programs, shelters, or the rare social workers they actually trust. The delicate routine of finding a bed or a bite to eat is shattered in a single heartbeat. The psychological toll of these raids is just as heavy as losing every physical possession they owned. Each forced relocation effectively wipes out the small sense of stability a person fought to build. It leaves folks feeling drained and hopeless, haunted by the realization that security is just an illusion. Rather than working toward a permanent exit from homelessness, they're sucked back into pure survival. Every ounce of energy is wasted on finding a dry spot or scrounging for whatever supplies remain. This endless upheaval shows that fast-acting clearouts only deepen the crisis instead of solving core issues. They break human bonds, destroy hard-won trust, and drain the motivation required to actually move forward. Real progress starts by protecting belongings, providing storage, and focusing entirely on getting people into actual apartments. That's the real choice over just herding people from one street corner to another like they're invisible. Think about it, how would losing everything you own repeatedly destroy your own will to keep pushing? Lasting solutions must endure beyond the winter months. Trading habitual chaos for a genuine way out? The outlook for Vancouver and the people featured on Homeless People Stories depends on meaningful action. We need long-term strategies, not just emergency fixes for one freeze. Seasonal shelters do serve a purpose. They provide a temporary lifeline during those bitter, rainy nights. But they aren't the ultimate solution. Making an impact requires shifting to long-term housing paired with professional support and a door that locks. That means healthcare, job training, and recovery resources. This approach handles multiple obstacles all at once. It fosters a real sense of home instead of a revolving door. We must protect and expand affordable housing. Preserving these city units is a smart, high-priority move. We are talking about thousands of homes. These serve as a crucial lifeline for the vulnerable. Adequate funding is key to keeping them habitable. Better rent laws and stopping predatory developers could keep thousands of our neighbors off the streets. At the same time, we need more dedicated housing tailored to the unique challenges people face. Giving people stability without the threat of eviction has proven successful across various Canadian cities and pilots. Long-term investment provides the solid ground people need to reorganize their lives and keep their belongings safe. It offers a mailing address for benefits and a peaceful space to breathe and plan for the future. Community-led initiatives are vital as well, emphasizing peer support, Indigenous housing models, and youth-specific programs. They realize one-size-fits-all fixes fail. When individuals feel genuinely respected by a program, they finally begin to trust. Engagement grows and outcomes improve when we ensure steady financial support for these grassroots projects. Taking this path, instead of just chasing emergencies, proves the city views housing as a basic human right. It's more than just a seasonal gift. Change won't happen overnight. It demands serious political backbone. It requires collaboration across departments and a community that refuses to accept raids and temporary beds as enough. The numbers don't lie. When cities invest in lasting homes and compassion, fewer neighbors return to the streets. More people are able to rebuild lives that were put on hold by years of instability. Truthfully, as we air these personal journeys on Homeless People Stories, focusing on permanent fixes is the priority. It's a reflection of our collective values. Real compassion isn't measured by how quickly we can vacate a sidewalk. It's defined by the steady support we give to help someone stand tall. It proves that empathy in action is unstoppable. It can turn the hardest struggles into tales of steady, earned victory. We must commit to dignity that lasts. By moving past temporary patches, we are creating communities where survival isn't an annual struggle for anyone. What's your vision for a real, lasting solution in a city as expensive and beautiful as Vancouver? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely interested in what you have to say. Here is my take. Looking past the surface and the cold statistics revealing Vancouver's gritty reality. Ice-cold downpours drenching makeshift tarps, the brutal cycle of substance use, and skyrocketing housing costs, endless camp evictions, and the urgent demand for solutions beyond seasonal band-aids, these narratives really hit home. I am mostly struck by the silent dignity of individuals who keep pushing forward despite facing impossible circumstances. They organize their meager possessions, split a meal with a friend, or provide some encouragement, just grasping for fragments of everyday existence in whatever way they can. This subtle resilience is quiet, yet it speaks far louder than any government report ever will. It proves the incredible strength of the human spirit. Even when life feels like it is shrinking, sharing these authentic experiences on homeless people's stories has taught me an essential lesson. Each individual we pass on the street possesses a history worthy of respect, empathy, and a fair chance. People are not merely problems to solve or data points to track in a yearly census. We are talking about moms, essence workers, and visionaries whose worlds collapsed due to factors beyond their control. Once that realization clicks, criticism fades away and genuine compassion takes its place. These city streets demonstrate that small acts of grace carry much more weight than folks realize. Simply lending an ear, a warm blanket, reliable support, safe lockers, or policies viewing housing as a basic right instead of a profit margin can alter everything. Significant change rarely begins with a massive event. It often starts by choosing not to look away, remaining engaged, and supporting those who are there through thick and thin. This city also shines a light on a very difficult truth. No metropolis is too beautiful or affluent to mask the suffering tucked away in its shadows. A region celebrated for mountains and water simultaneously harbors extreme loneliness and hardship. That divide is heartbreaking. It should force us to reevaluate our community goals and the way we treat the people living next to us. Such stories do not demand that we solve global poverty by the break of dawn. They only ask that we pay attention, care deeply, and allow that insight to manifest as action. Maybe by starting a conversation, volunteering, donating, or simply spreading the word about the actual situation. What is your biggest takeaway after listening to these chronicles from out west? Has your perspective on homelessness, personal value, or your civic responsibility shifted in any way? Let's close with a short prayer. Closing our exploration of Vancouver's hidden corners, the contrast between scenic views and silent misery feels incredibly sharp. Here's a landscape where summits touch the tides and skylines reflect off the harbor, a hub of immense potential, yet alongside that splendor, actual humans are rising each morning without a secure roof over their heads, lacking fundamental needs like a private room, warmth, and a sense of safety. I fell short. Between the stats painting a grim picture and the relentless Pacific storms soaking through flimsy covers, the massive impact of dependency, the burden of high living costs, and the shortage of affordable units. From the frequent displacement of camps and the clear requirement for long-term support all point toward one conclusion. These are real individuals defined by endurance and quiet optimism, plus that universal desire for dignity and connection that resides in every one of us. As we conclude this episode of Homeless People Stories, I want to share a heartfelt blessing. My wish is for everyone resting under a tarp, in a backstreet, or on a park seat to feel noticed and valued this evening. May tiny moments of grace reach you where you are. A waterproof blanket during a heavy storm, a warm plate of food offered without any expectations, a friendly talk that restores your self-worth, support provided with no strings or criticism attached. For those of you who stayed until the final second, I truly appreciate your presence. I appreciate your moments, your attention, and your empathy for these personal narratives. Thank you for deciding to hear them. We can't keep looking away from the truth. Your willingness to care is what actually heals our community. That's worth everything. If this video hit you deep or gave you a new outlook, please give us a brief moment. Tap that like button to help these stories reach a much wider audience. Tell us what moved you in the comments and join the Homeless People Stories family. This helps us keep shining a light on these raw human moments. Your support is what keeps us going. We're so grateful you stayed, showed some love, and stuck around until the very end. Carry a little more kindness and grace with you as you go about your day. Everybody needs it, especially the brave souls who let us into their lives today. We'll see you in the next episode.